On Flickering Dreams this week, we have Wonka, the origin story of the chocolate magnate starring Timothée Chalamet. We have Bradley Cooper, who not only stars in but also directs and co-writes Maestro, the Leonard Bernstein biopic. We have an apocalyptic thriller on Netflix called Leave the World Behind with Julia Roberts. Emma gets very taken by an animated DC feature called Merry Little Batman on Prime Video. And I review the latest in the Three Musketeers films called Milady, which comes out in cinemas today. We also look at a new series on Freevee on Prime Video called Icons Unearthed Marvels, looking at the origin and background story behind the Marvel franchise. And Emma and I review the Golden Globe nominations due for announcement on January the 7th. That's all in an action-packed Flickering Dreams. So we are back with Flickering Dreams the week of December the 14th, and it's just two of us tonight because Scott and Andy are busy elsewhere. So Emma and myself, that's Emma Sewell from Emma at the Movies, and me, Bob Mann from One Man's Movies and BBC Radio Solent. We are going to have a run through of the latest films as per that introduction. We're going to start today with the big film, if you like, of the week, and that is the film Wonka. Emma, do you want to introduce Wonka to us?
Yeah, of course. So a young Willy Wonka decides he wants to follow his dreams to become one of the world's best chocolatiers, and he heads off to see out that dream, only to discover that there's a chocolate cartel. Here's a clip.
Good evening.
So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
Funny little man. How dare you? I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
In fact, in Loompa-land, I am regarded as something of a whopper. They call me Lofty. So I will thank you to stop gawping at me as though I was something unpleasant you'd found in your handkerchief. I find it uncomfortable and, frankly, rude.
Sorry.
Right, Timothée Chalamet and a diminutive Hugh Grant there in Wonka. This seems to be a film which a lot of people really like. There do seem to be a few haters around, including Kevin Mayer, I should say, of the Times, who seems to be leading the charge of negatives about this. What did you make of Wonka? Did you have a good time?
You know what? I absolutely... it was thrilling. I really had a great time watching it. I'm terrible with the music though, but I still have like some of the songs popping into my head, and a lot of people that I've been speaking to, or I've caught a bit of them talking about it online, like it's just going around in their head non-stop without reminder, which I think is just a great sign that it's been put together really well.
Yeah.
I thought it was lovely seeing so many faces pop up that I recognised as well. I just genuinely liked it all round. I honestly didn't have anything to grumble about after seeing it.
Yeah.
And Timothée Chalamet, I'm a bit hit and miss on.
I am too. Yeah.
I've come to like him a little bit more. I think after I saw him in The King, since then I've sort of gradually got on board with his stuff, but I thought I think he was perfect for this.
I think Chalamet's really good in the right film.
Yes,
but there were some performances like Bones and All. I didn't get on with him in that at all. I'm afraid. I really didn't rate him. I didn't think he had the chops to actually deliver against that. But I agree with you that in Wonka, I mean, who knew? Who knew he can sing like that and dance like that? I mean, he has a lovely voice. And apparently I read somewhere that his mother was a professional dancer. So that's clearly where he got his dancing genes from, as it were. But I thought, like you, I thought it was delightful. I thought the songs by Neil Hannon were, I mean, I'm I'm actually quite a fan of Divine Comedy in terms of their previous output, and some of their songs in this film are just pure Divine Comedy in terms of the way in which they play. What's that one about a perfect world? I can't remember what the title is now. Come on, Google, tell me what it is. Yeah. But that is almost directly off a Divine Comedy album, I thought. And anybody who can rhyme chocolate with isocolate and pocolate is just having a laugh. But I thought it was terrific. The illustrious Mrs. Movieman also absolutely loved it, and she's been gushing to everybody that will listen about the fact you should go and take your kids to see this film. Yeah, I thought it was cracking. I think the supporting cast as well in it, Olivia Colman, I thought was terrific as Mrs. Scrubbit. She was having a whale of a time. And so was the guy who plays her suitor, Tom Lewis, is it? Tom Lewis, who was the convict T-Bone in Paddington 2, who was very funny in that as well.
Tom Davis.
Tom Davis.
Just got up on that screen.
Yeah, I didn't think Lewis sounded right. Tom Davis, of course, yeah. He was the convict T-Bone in Paddington 2 as well. It was very funny in that, but he really made me laugh.
I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, why do I know? Of course he was.
Yeah. So this was created, of course, by the team behind Paddington and Paddington 2. And it had that same kind of flair and that same feel for family fun, I thought. Let's see what Andy and Scott made of it as well. Scott was saying there was some discussion on Commode and Mayo's Take, which is a minor film review podcast, comparing it to Mary Poppins. But in Andy's view, it felt much more like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in kind of tone and texture, and I can see that. There's another worldliness about it that brings alive the spirit of the original and fills a lot of the background. I've seen some people say it wasn't dark enough compared to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which had some very dark moments, including cutting a head off the chicken, right? But for me, I didn't kind of link that. I thought this was a Wonka who was young and naive, and he hadn't had that cynicism of old age drilled into him in order to become bitter and twisted.
Yeah. Well, I agree. You know, it's obviously like before the dark times for Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
But I did find there were some bits where, to look at it, you were like, oh, I can see, like, they have given the seed of slight mental unrest, maybe is the phrase for it.
Yeah.
And I thought it worked really quite well.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy also says great visual and audible treats, great song and dance numbers, have to agree. And the cast all gave it their all, including Hugh Grant. He didn't think it was perfect. He had some questions about the plot and thought it sagged in the middle section. So he still thinks it's worth seeing on the big screen, but he's not as much of a fan of it, I think, as we are. And Scott, he also enjoyed it. Chalamet twinkles with charm, have to agree. Production design, costumes, hair and makeup, all terrific. And the songs were delightful. Laughed a lot and felt a tug of the heartstrings towards the end. Yes. Yeah. There was a lot of dust in the cinema at one point, I have to say.
Yes.
Even though it was horribly contrived how it got to that point, there was a lot of dust around. Yeah. The one thing Scott wasn't a fan of was the Three Chocolatiers, who he found a little bit annoying. Matt Lucas, in particular. But
I would say Matt Lucas was my least favourite out of that. I do love Matthew Bainton, who's like from Ghosts and some horrible history things as well, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
I do love him, so I was sold.
So, but all in all, Scott thought it was a fantastic family outing in a world of pure imagination. I can't disagree with that. So, in terms of scores, Scott gave it 8 out of 10. Andy gave it a 7 out of 10. I've actually given it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was a classic in the light of Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I'm trying to think of another classic now. Oh, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Oliver, that type of classic film, which I think will scroll forward 20 years and it'll be on at Christmas and everyone will say, hooah, Wonka's on. Right. Score from you, Emma?
Well, when I came out, I texted my friend and I was like, that's, it is an absolute classic, as you say. 5 out of 5 everlasting gobstoppers. I have come down to a 9 though in the end.
Okay.
But yeah.
Right, so that's a 9, an 8, and a 7 is 17, 24. 34 divided by 4 is 8.5, I think. 8.5 out of 10 as the Flickering Dreams score, which makes Wonka a splendiferous hit.
Indeed.
Okay, great. Right, we're going to move on to another new film out this week. This one is getting a lot of awards attention, and this film is Maestro. And in Maestro, we are in the world of Leonard Bernstein, the famous composer, conductor, educator, homosexual Jew who gained great acclaim in the world of music in the US, but he led a somewhat controversial and difficult life with his wife Felicia, played by Carey Mulligan. Here's a clip.
If summer doesn't sing in you, then nothing sings in you. And if nothing sings in you, then you can't make music. Something she told me.
Hello, I'm Lenny.
Hello, Felicia.
So, I found this a really difficult film to review. I've just posted my review on One Man's Movies, because technically, it is really great. It is a really well-made film. The performances, Bradley Cooper there, you saw, he goes from young man, blue-eyed boy, to this old chain-smoking man. How he ever got to the age he got to, given the number of cigarettes he smokes, every single scene, I think, in the film, he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I mean, I've never seen a film where there was more smoking. Right. It probably earned its 15 certificate for the cigarette use more than anything else in the film, because actually there is a bit of drug taking and so on, and a bit of bad language and racial and homophobic slurs, but it's actually a fairly soft 15. I thought it was more kind of a 12 to 15 in terms of the rating. Other than that, so he was absolutely superb. I have to say, the hair and makeup for him in transitioning him there was self-evident. He looks like Bernstein, and it was brilliant. And Carey Mulligan, you saw there as she came out of the shadows, looking like some 40s Judy Garland star from the golden age of Hollywood. I mean, I love Carey Mulligan anyway, and her acting in this film is just, I thought, superb. So, and the directing is fantastic as well. Like, a lot of the time, the way in which he Bradley Cooper not only starred in it, but he directed it as well, and he co-wrote it. He uses the colour really well, so it goes from a beautiful black and white in the early days through to a colour. And he also changes the screen format as the film goes through as well. So at points it's 4:3 Academy ratio, then it goes widescreen, and you hardly notice when it's doing it, but it's quite cleverly done. And the way in which he transitions from scene to scene, like there are some very clever cuts in this film where he'll be walking outside and he'll go inside Carnegie Hall, or he'll walk through a doorway and it'll all change. So the way in which it's constructed and so on, I thought was really very clever indeed. And the cinematography, that crisp black and white, was Matthew Labitek is the cinematography. I thought that was terrific, right? but I didn't really like it. Right?
I was waiting for it.
There's a big but here, and it just didn't really engage me as a movie. I thought it was all very clever. The illustrious Mrs. Movie Man thought the same thing. She actually used the dreaded P word, pretentious, right, to describe it, which I never use in a review anymore because I get shit thrown at me from various people if I say pretentious. How dare you? But I can let the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man use it. So yeah, I mean, I found myself, it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes long, something like that. And towards the end, I found myself glancing at my watch, right? It just didn't grab me, it didn't engage me enough for it to really be a great movie in my head, which makes it really interesting film to watch for the award season. Because as I said, for the acting and for the direction and possibly for the cinematography, I think it could get nominated for Oscars. Hair and makeup, it might get nominated for Oscars. And if it won those, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it winning those. But as a film overall, just didn't do it for me. In the end, I gave this a rather measly 6 out of 10. So I think we could maybe do some more people watching this one. It's on Netflix from the 20th of December, I think, which is a week tomorrow. So if more people get a chance to watch Maestro, maybe we'll revisit that score and see if see if I was just in a bad mood. But for Maestro, that's a Flickering Dreams score just based on my view of 7 out of 10, which makes it a no, 6 out of 10.
Your score.
No, 6 out of 10. Scratch that. Scratch that and reverse it, as Wonka would say. 6 out of 10, which makes it a marginal miss from me, I'm afraid. Didn't expect to see that, I have to say. Okay, there's only you sitting on the other side, but we're going to do it anyway. It's time. It's time for Dr. Bob's movie montage mystery, and this is where I show I show 5 stills of a film. The film is selected at random from the top 1,000 box office films, and Emma has to try and guess what film it is. But
much pressure.
So much pressure. This is your chance to catch up. If we just look at where the scores stand, because Emma wasn't here last week, so she has lost her lead. There is Scott in first place with 80 points, Emma in second place with 60 points, and Andy in third place, close behind now with 50 points. So this is your chance to shine, Emma. Here we go. We ready for your first picture? Here it comes.
Maybe.
It is.
Oh. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is she writing something down?
Oh no, I'm just going to say it out loud. I don't need to write it down this week.
Okay. Well, but you see, I have to keep a straight face because you might get it wrong. Right. Here we go. Okay. Here's picture number 2. Well, actually, yeah. Don't say it out loud because people might be playing along at home.
Oh, that's true, actually. Sorry, I will get a bit of paper. Oh, no. And I really need to guess it on the next one.
Yes, you do.
Oh.
Okay, here comes picture number 3.
Oh, the pressure. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm okay.
You've written something down?
I have written something down.
Okay, here's picture number 4.
Oh, I really hope it's right.
And here comes the final picture, picture number 5.
I might have to kick myself otherwise. I
Okay.
haven't seen it, which does not help.
Right, but
If
your
it is what I think it is.
Your
So
answer. What's your
I've
answer?
put, look who's talking. Is it? Is it?
It is. Look who's talking. Yes. Woohoo! So you got that on your third go. So that's 50-40. That's
Oh, thank
30
God.
points. So that puts you into the
Can't-
lead again.
Can't be
With
having
90
Scott
points.
taking the lead. Outrageous.
There you go. Well done, Emma. Right.
I'm-
I think that was number 550
we-
something.
Can we take a break so I can WhatsApp Scott and rub it in?
No, it's all right. Leave
Sorry.
it.
Well,
Leave it to Stu.
Let's
Leave
not
him to
tell him.
Stu.
He can listen. He can listen to my.
He can
win.
listen to the podcast. Yes, don't let on. Yeah. Right, we're moving back to the movies now with a film on Netflix called Leave the World Behind. And in this film, Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke and their family rent an ideal holiday home in Long Island, only to have the owners turn up on a night when the world falls into darkness. Strange sounds emanate from the skies and animals begin to behave a little strangely. Here's the clip.
Something is happening, and I don't trust them.
Everything I know, I have told you.
I don't believe you.
I would do anything to protect my family. What you do is your business.
So is this one you've seen, Emma?
Yes. Yeah.
What did you make of this?
Now, I did enjoy myself watching it. There are some random issues that I had with it, but it's how the film's designed to be. So it's just me being irritating, really. But obviously,
Or imitated?
well, a bit of both. So obviously, very apocalyptic nature to the film that starts pretty early on, and the music is perfect for this. It's very atmospheric, but at the beginning, that really was bothering me. Like, it was really putting me on edge, which is obviously what it's designed to do. I was finding it very frustrating, though. But again,
As intense.
It does work, because I was like,
It was setting
my
your
feet.
teeth. It was setting your teeth on edge, was it?
very much so.
This is not a film. This is not a film. I have to say that would be good if you've got any sort of dental phobia.
No,
No,
that's a very good point.
So I did put that as a trigger on my film review.
Yeah,
Because I know there are some people have fingers being injured. There was a lady sat next to me in the London Film Festival who was going crazy next to me because I think it was the bike riders, which hasn't come out yet, but people getting their fingers broken and so on. But there are some people who go crazy about teeth, and
that wasn't pleasant in this.
not a
at
good
all.
scene. Not a good scene.
I watched my way through this film, and I genuinely wasn't sure I was enjoying myself, but I was enthralled. Like the pace that it was going at, I thought worked really well. You'd get the difference. You get the downtime from the trauma of the apocalypse, and it sort of lulled you into that full sense of security, and then it would start again. And I just found that wave of terror quite impressive. And the one thing, and I think I have mentioned it on the podcast before, I hate some endings to films, and this film does exactly something I dislike, but I loved it. It really worked.
Yeah.
And I found myself chuckling at the end.
Yeah.
Everything came together. It was very reminded me of Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah.
And I texted my friend to say, "Oh, it's like Knock at the Cabin mixed with a disaster film.
Disaster film,
essentially.
The Road or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It did. I think Andy commented actually that it was quite M. Night Shyamalan-y, if that's a verb.
Oh, Shamalama Ding Dong, yes.
Shamalonga Ding Dong, yes. Yes, he thought it was fairly satisfying, a gripping film. He thought it was about half an hour too long. I don't actually agree with him on that. I think actually the pacing of the film was really nice, and we have to be careful on this film not to give too many spoilers away. But you're never entirely sure, I think, what's going on, and that's part of the reality of the fact that we're so reliant as a civilization on the electricity staying on and the broadband staying on, right? The mobile phones and the internet going down. These people are pitched into a pit of not knowing what's going on, and I think that was really very effective in the film. And there were some kind of standout scenes. One involving a promotional video for Tesla, I thought was particularly good, or maybe not a promotional video for Tesla.
Yeah.
But I thought that scene was one which I will stick in my head for a very long time as being that was really clever. That was a really clever scene. I enjoyed it, and I've heard some people critical about the fact it didn't really have an ending. It just almost kind of you were left to imagine what would happen carrying on, and I imagine this is one where they will look to build a sequel potentially for
I really hope they don't know. I loved the way that ended.
I would be happy with it just as a standalone thing like that. I guess I had some quibbles that some of the stuff was not well explained around animals and around aircraft. That left me not being completely satisfied with the storytelling per se.
On that, I think my brain went to other films like that and just filled in the blanks. Like, I think I decided, I've seen the animal migration thing happen in this film, and I see what you mean though, because it doesn't explain anything really at all, does it? It
doesn't, and that's part of the joy of the film. I think that it doesn't explain enough what's going on. It'd be interesting to actually read the book and see how the book kind of carries the story through. But yeah, I thought it was good. Bizarrely, right, I saw this the day after I'd been to see Wonka, and Wonka features a group of flamingos. What's the collective noun for flamingos? A flamboyance of flamingos, right? So Wonka had a flamboyance of flamingos. The very next film I went to see had a flamboyance of flamingos in it. I was bricking myself that I was going to go see Maestro and there was going to be a flamboyance of flamingos. It was going to be a sign from God, and I was going to have to go and live in a monastery and wait for the end of the world or something. Wait for the flamingo apocalypse to come. Right, so that is Leave the World Behind. In terms of scores, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. Andy has also given it an 8 out of 10. Your score, Emma?
Yeah, I'm on an 8 as well.
8 out of 10. Very consistent scoring for Leave the World Behind on Netflix. That's an 8 out of 10. It's a solid gold hit from us. Yeah, I think deservedly so. Very good. Okay, next up we have a animated film on Prime Video. This is Merry Little Batman. Emma, can you introduce this to us?
Indeed. Damian Wayne has to fight against Batman's enemies in Wayne Manor. Here's a clip.
It's the Justice League. Sorry, Damian, I gotta go.
Shall I assume we did not see the Bat Razor?
I like it. Totally ups my intimidation game.
You have donut crumbs in your intimidation game, sir.
I promise I'll be back before Christmas. Oh man, I'm the worst dad ever.
So it was released by MGM through Amazon,
Right.
rather than being sort of usual lead-ins that you'd get from the bigger films, but it's very much sticks to all of the things you'd expect, and it's pretty much a DC Home Alone. So I think if you take Home Alone and Teen Titans, like go to the movies, something like that, and mix them together, you get this film. And honestly, I saw it. I was going to watch something else, like specifically went onto Prime to find a film, and I saw this pop up, and I was like, well, I'm watching this now. This is what is happening with my evening.
You see, if I saw that film pop up, that would be the last thing I would think. But
it is well worth a watch, honestly. I loved the animation style on it. It has got that Teen Titan vibe to it, and that combined with what I would call picture book style, sort of a very nicely sort of animated background with the slightly unusually shaped characters popping up all over the place, and I loved it. And honestly, they do something just really creative with it. I just love the way Damian Wayne obviously wants to be Batman, but Batman has just solved all crime. So now he sort of became a father, and he's like, well, I need to protect my son at all costs. So crime had to stop. And now he is a very overprotective father. So when Batman has to go and help because all the other superheroes are busy, and he leaves Damian on his own, and Damian wants to be a superhero. So he manages to get rid of Alfred, who is just a bumbling fool, and I love it. And you get the little montages like you would in Home Alone, like when he sets up the house and things, and he does his training montage and all of that, and you get all the characters that you know and love. And it's just fun. I really did enjoy myself. A great family film, and especially like it is kind of Christmassy, but not really Christmassy.
Right. Probably more Christmassy than a lot of those Christmas films we looked at a couple of weeks ago. So
I don't know what you're talking about, Bob. They were all fantastic.
Terrible. Okay.
The only thing that I will point out, and I didn't notice this, and I had to think back. I was sort of scrolling to see what other people thought of it, and one person in particular has done a review and put up that the very opening, literally the first sentence of the movie, could cause problems for parents.
Okay.
Now, I went back and watched it again just to see, because I wasn't sure. I still didn't really pick up on it.
That was a common theme of some of those other films we reviewed. Yes. Okay. I think. Okay, it's a good mark out of 10 for Merry Little Batman on Prime Video.
You know, I'm going to give it a 9.
Oh,
I really enjoyed it.
9 out of 10 for that animation on Prime, just based on Emma's views. But that makes it a Flickering Dreams
view.
Hit! And who's going to argue with that at Christmas? Okay. The last film we're going to be reviewing tonight is coming out tomorrow, actually, but it was the subject of a Cineworld preview screening last night, and that is the Three Musketeers Milady, and this is the second in the French-made series of Musketeer films, and here is a clip.
C'est pas moi que vous vouliez sauver, mais Constance Bonacieux.
Où est-elle? Je sais que c'est vous qui l'avez enlevée.
Quel dommage que vous ne vouliez travailler pour moi.
Qu'avez-vous fait d'elle?
Vous me paierez cette offense.
Il
dira où aller ou je jure de le tuer. Prends garde, D'Artagnan. Cette femme t'a envoûté.
Vous êtes des tueurs, d'Artagnan, que cela vous plaise ou non.
What do you mean, audio listeners, you didn't do GCSE French? Pay attention more in class, I tell you. Yes, apologies about the French language there. Now, I say this was at a Cineworld preview screening. It wasn't a secret cinema, but it was a very poorly attended unlimited preview. There were 20 people in my big screening, which is a lot less than there normally are. Andy's screening had 15 people, and when the first subtitle came up, 3 of them got up and left. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's probably not very surprising, given that this is a part 2 for a film. The first part of this was called D'Artagnan, and that came out, I think, in January or February of this year. So not that long ago, but not a tremendous number of people, I think, saw that film. Here comes the second part. Do you need to have seen the first part to enjoy the second part? Well, there is a preview kind of what happened at the beginning of this film to remind you. I actually went back because I was taking the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man and the saintly Sarah Shaw along to see this film, and they had not seen the first part. So I read the synopsis on IMDb, which was worth doing because I remembered stuff that happened in the first film that I'd forgotten. So it is certainly worth going to IMDb and genning up on the synopsis of the film before you go and see it again, because I mean, I enjoyed this fact, but it is quite a dense and complicated story that unfolds. There's the usual stuff in here about King Louis and Queen Anne and the Cardinal Richelieu and Milady, kind of all of that stuff from the Three Musketeers, which you probably know from some of the previous films. But then there are an awful lot of subplots going on. Basically, in this second part of the French series, D'Artagnan has witnessed his love, Constance, being kidnapped, and he has to strive to save her against a backdrop of a lot of warlike activity between the Protestants and the Catholics, and fighting with the support of the English in France. So it's a kind of a wartime movie. Some of the war scenes, I think, were very well done. Andy even compared them to favourably to Napoleon in terms of how well those war scenes were done. Andy said he didn't really enjoy the first film, but he enjoyed this one a whole lot more. I did enjoy the first film, and I enjoyed this one as well. It's kind of a rollicking, old-fashioned action-adventure movie of the sort that we actually don't get many of these days. I thought it was a wonderfully entertaining, swashbuckling film. It didn't go exactly the way that I thought it would go. There are some clever twists in the story in here, which I didn't see coming, and some surprises in the story that I didn't see coming. So go into it with an open mind, hopefully without knowing what happens in the story, and I think you will enjoy this one. Andy gave this one, what did Andy give this one? I think he gave it an 8 out of 10, and I still haven't done my review for this. I think I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well for this one. So there will clearly be those people who do not like films with subtitles, and I can kind of understand that, but this is a good film to go and watch. It's a good adventure film. 8 out of 10 is our Flickering Dreams score, which makes it a hit. So go to cinemas and support it. It's out tomorrow in cinemas.
Yeah, and I did notice the other day that D'Artagnan, the first instalment, is on Sky Movies now.
That
came out this week.
So, okay.
Yeah, it would be nice, because I really loved it, and it would be really nice that if people managed to catch it, think, oh, I'll watch that new one.
Yeah.
And then go to the second one. Yeah,
they've probably, it'd be good to have released it a week or two ago, because I was kind of telling our friend Sarah, well, we're going to see this film, it'd be good if you can catch the second one, but Amazon, not Amazon, Prime Video were looking to charge 14 quid or something to watch it, which I thought was not good.
Yeah,
No, that's
because
good.
I had thought to myself, because I had planned on going to yesterday's screening, couldn't in the end, and I was thinking, shall I rewatch it? But realistically, like, it came out so close, I wasn't going to have enough time to fit it in before going to this one. But
yeah, okay, good. All right, so that's the Three Musketeers, Milady. If you like Eva Green, definitely go and see this film. There's lots of bodice ripping going on, which I enjoyed very much, I have to say. But then I'm a shallow man. Next up, we are going to look at a series, actually. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to look at the UK Top 10. UK Top 10, at number 1 is Wonka, as you might expect. First week in the chart. Then we've got, I can't actually read that. We got Wish. In second place, we've got The Hunger Games, which is continued to hang onto the charts there. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes at number 3. At number 4 still is Napoleon. So at number 5 is Saltburn. So fourth week in the chart, continuing to do reasonable business. Number 6 is the Hindi film Animal. At number 7 is the Beyonce concert, which is still bringing in lots of money, probably because their ticket prices are outrageous. At number 8 is the golden oldie Elf with its 20th anniversary. And at number 9 is the golden oldie Home Alone, continuing to bring in business. 263 weeks in the chart, it says on, on the list. And a bit of a surprise, I guess, at number 10 is the film that we reviewed last week, The Peasants, the film, the animated film composed of all of those wonderful paintings that were done. It's only made £74,000 at the box office in order to get 10th place, which seems nothing at all. But there you go. So very little change there in terms of films this week. In fact, the only new films in the chart this week are Wonka, which went in straight at number 1. That made close to 9 million quid. And I could see that staying in the charts for a long time and being very successful. And The Peasants, as I say, come in at number 10. All of the other entries in the box office chart this week were pre-existing entries. So that's that. So we're moving on to look at a new series which is releasing on Freevee, which you can access via Prime Video from tomorrow or today when this podcast will be released. And that is called Icons Unearthed Marvel. Now, this is a long-running series of documentary type films featuring cultural events, icons as they call it. And this is the one looking at the Marvel series. We got early access to the first episode of this. We actually had early access to the whole series, but we only managed to watch the first one. And here's a little clip to whet your appetite for this series.
Avi Arad's ambitious plans to sell Marvel toys depended on controlling the shows that promoted them. But the puppet masters soon came up against a long-standing Marvel problem. Other people controlled the rights to Marvel's best properties.
They sold rights to Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and Captain America.
And the Fantastic Four had found its way to Germany with producer Bernd Eichinger and his company, Constantine Films.
So that is from the first episode of Icons Unearthed Marvel. And I have to say, I found it really interesting. I didn't actually know anything about the history. I mean, I knew they did comics, obviously, but I really didn't know anything about the history of how Marvel had evolved and how near it came to kind of catastrophe before we ever got to see Iron Man at the cinema. We don't get that far in this episode. I think there's 8 episodes in the series in total. But this first episode looks at the evolution of Marvel as a company. So that clip you just heard is quite typical, that said that so-and-so was in charge and he did this. And then this happened because they'd sold the rights because the company was going out of business, so etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of that going on in here, which I found really interesting. Some may find it less interesting. I think as we progress through the series, we're going to get into the movies, and that is probably going to have more interest to kind of mainstream Marvel fans than this first episode. General view, because I spoke to Scott about this one as well, who also watched the first episode, was this is very much like the Netflix series, the movies that made us, where they kind of delve into the background behind the movies, how the movies got financed, how the movies nearly didn't happen. And it's that kind of style that you saw there with talking heads, voiceover, and some interesting footage that they've dug up. So I would say that this is going to be a must-see series for Marvel fans. I've already recommended it to my daughter-in-law Bronwyn, who is a hardcore Marvel fan, and she's looking forward to seeing this one. But that again is Icons Unearthed Marvel, Marvel, and that is on Amazon Freevee or Prime Video as it is marketed in the UK. Okay, we are moving on to our final item today, which is to look at the Golden Globe nominations. And I've got some slides to actually put up. Can I have the first slide, please? Yeah. So let's have a little look through the nominations and just give our views on them. For the audio listeners out there, I will read what the nominations are. And the nominations for Best Motion Picture, Drama, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, after what I've just said, Past Lives, The Zone of Interest, which is the one I haven't seen yet because it's not out yet, and Anatomy of a Fall, which is an interesting one on the list. Any surprises there, Emma, for you, that ones you would expect to be in there which aren't?
Yes, probably. I always have an issue with the Golden Globes because I find the way they split up the movies to be very strange. Like, how is Air in musical or comedy? Like,
yeah, that's another one. We'll come to that slide in a minute, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things, yes, they do fall into that category. I mean, my personal preference would be for a Killer Moon win, I think, although I wouldn't be mad if Past Lives won.
No. For me,
Killers.
Yeah. I mean, we've not seen Zone of Interest yet. That's Jonathan, what's his face? God, Glazer, yes, Jonathan Glazer film. So I think that will be very interesting. I really liked Anatomy of a Fall as well. It's interesting that Foreign Language Picture has made that list as well. We'll come back to that. But yeah, I mean, for me, it would probably be Oppenheimer, I have to say, as opposed to Killers of the Flower Moon. Like them both. And I also wouldn't object to Past Lives winning as well. I think that could be one of the sleeper films in the award season this year. But for me, it would be probably at the moment, from what I've seen, it'd be between those three. Let's move on to that other category, which you say is Best Picture, Musical or Comedy. And the nominees there are Barbie, Poor Things, which we haven't seen yet, American Fiction, which I haven't seen. Has that come out, American Fiction?
No, I haven't.
I don't recognise it.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Holdovers, which again I haven't seen. That's been at film festivals, but I've not seen it. May December. Why is that a musical or a comedy? Right? It's not really a comedy.
I mean, it's absolutely not. That absolutely should have been in the drama category.
And Air as well, as you say, which I said this is going to win the Oscar for Best Film. I said for Air. Yeah, that was very early in the season, and I think I've been drinking something. Yeah. I mean,
American Fiction doesn't come out until February as well. So
okay, right. So we're not going to see that before the awards unless somebody kind sends us a screener. I mean,
hint.
I mean, it's difficult because I've only seen 3 out of those 6 films.
I mean, I absolutely would throw May December in the bin, so that's a no. I would love Barbie to win some awards, but I don't see it winning as many as I would like.
No.
And
I
probably
suspect,
not
I
even
suspect
in
that
this
one.
Best Picture category.
Although I've not seen either of them, I've heard great things about both Poor Things and The Holdovers. So
Yeah.
Fairly open category there. I think we'll move on. Next category is best director motion picture. We've got Bradley Cooper for Maestro. Talked about fabulous direction earlier on. Greta Gerwig for Barbie. Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon. And Celine Song for Past Lives. Again, I probably wouldn't rate Bradley Cooper for Maestro winning that, but it could be Scorsese, it could be Song, it could be Christopher Nolan. I really couldn't judge.
I swear to God, if they give it to Christopher Nolan, I just no. Give it to Selena Song. That's what I want to see.
It could be Selena Song, or it could be Greta Gerwig, right? I mean, yeah.
Very true.
I mean, that's a pretty open field, isn't it? That one. Next up for best screenplay, we've got Barbie, we've got Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives, and Anatomy of a Fall, again, which again is interesting. That's made the list. I mean, I'd love Past Lives to win that. I thought it was a very clever script. Could go to Killers of the Flower Moon as well. But we'll have a proper debate of this on this. In fact, I'm not sure we will, because it's January the 7th, the awards. So I don't know. We'll get a podcast in before then in the new year, but we'll see.
It is really frustrating because, all the big awards when they come up, and like people who know me, that what do you think of these? I'm like, I can't really most of the time. If I've seen half of them, it's a miracle. And as you know, going through this list, there are so many that are pegged as really big films that we don't get this early.
Don't get this early in the UK. Yes. Americans out there, yes, send us some films earlier, please. Yeah,
absolutely.
Next category, we've got the first acting award, which again they split into 2: actor in a motion picture, drama. Got Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, which is great to see him on the list. Andrew Scott for All of Us Strangers, which I haven't seen. And Barry Keoghan for Saltburn.
I'd be a hard push for Andrew Scott on this one. That film was amazing.
Was it?
Yeah. So I would love to see that, though I suspect it will be a Saltburn. Oppenheimer competition.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought Cillian Murphy is in the prime position for this one. I love DiCaprio's performance as well, I have to say. But for me, it's between Murphy, DiCaprio, and Keoghan. And again, really difficult to call. I mean, we need Scott on this podcast because Scott's hit rate for predicting Oscars and awards is just ridiculous. But yeah. Okay. In terms of actresses, we've got Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Annette Bening for Naiad, which I've still not seen. It's on Netflix, isn't it? Greta Lee for Past Lives, and Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla, which I've yet to see. I don't think that's out
we've
yet.
We've got a preview screening next Wednesday, if that's any well.
Oh, have we? Okay. I've missed that. I'll try and get a ticket for that. Okay.
And Ferrari the day before.
Yes. Okay.
And One Life on Sunday. Just get them all in.
Oh yes, I've got One Life. I've got a ticket for One Life.
That is amazing. I did see that one at the film festival.
Okay,
I loved it.
Great. So in this list of best actresses, I mean, I'd love to give it to Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, actually, for this one. Although I did love Carey Mulligan in Maestro, I wouldn't object at all if Carey Mulligan won that for Maestro. They would be my two choices, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a preference in this one. I think, the ones that I've seen were all very good performances. So
yeah, I mean, it's best amongst equals, some of these, isn't it? Then we've got the actress in a motion picture, musical or comedy. We've got Fantasia Barrino in The Colour Purple, which again is not out yet. Jennifer Lawrence in No Hard Feelings, which is an interesting choice for an award.
I just don't see how that is there. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure why that's there. I like the film, but Natalie Portman for May December. Alma Poitzy for Fallen Leaves. Yes, Fallen Leaves gets a nomination. Love that film. Margot Robbie for Barbie, and Emma Stone for Poor Things, which looks an amazing performance from the trailer. I mean, for me in that list, although I didn't like the film, Natalie Portman in May December I thought was just superb. The way in which she was pretending to be Julianne Moore in those scenes, I just thought was an exquisite piece of acting. But again, we're too short on this list in terms of films we haven't seen yet.
I'm very keen on seeing The Colour Purple, but that's the end of January for that one as well.
So we won't see that before the awards, probably. Yeah. Okay. Again, difficult to call. An actor in a motion picture, musical or comedy. We've got Nicolas Cage in Dream Scenario, which I thought it was one of Cage's best performances, I have to say. Timothée Chalamet in Wonka. This was a real disappointment for me. This was a real disappointment for me that he was on the list, because I thought, Wonka's come out too late to make any of these awards. But no, clearly not. It's just been completely overlooked elsewhere. Timothée Chalamet for Wonka, Matt Damon for Air, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Again, he looks brilliant, and I've heard fantastic things about Giamatti's performance in that. Joaquin Phoenix for Beau is Afraid, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, which we've not seen yet.
I would love to see Timothée Chalamet get this.
Yeah, but I don't think he will.
He's not gonna.
I mean, I would actually like Joaquin Phoenix to win it for Beau is Afraid. I thought performance in that film was amazing. Or Nicolas Cage in Dream Scenario.
No.
Yeah, darling.
I mean, I would love Nicolas Cage to get all the awards all the time, but no.
Okay.
It's a no from me.
Emma has spoken. Right, moving through the back end of these awards, Best Supporting Actor, we've got Willem Dafoe for Poor Things, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, Charles Melton for May December, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. So Poor Things getting a lot of nominations again.
I mean, again, I would love a Gosling win on this
Gosling win would be extremely popular, I think.
Amazing. And I wouldn't be mad at Charles Melton winning, because I did think his performance was quite good. But
the one I would really like to win in here is Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. I thought it took me half the film to realise it was Robert Downey Jr. That's how much he disappeared into the character. I thought he was terrific. But I wouldn't object to a Ken win. Ken-uff. Best Supporting Actress, Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for The Colour Purple, Jodie Foster for Nyad, Julianne Moore for May December, Rosamund Pike for Saltburn, and Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. I mean, the one I'd love to win here is Rosamund Pike for Saltburn. I thought she was just spectacular.
I'm on the Oppenheimer train on this one.
Are you? Emily Blunt? Oh, yeah.
Even though she was in so little of that film, I thought she was really underused, but I thought what she gave was really, really good.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have selected her for that, but okay. Yeah, we'll see what we know. And moving on to the back end here, we got Best Original Score. We got Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, Jerskin Spendrix for Poor Things. Never heard of that composer. Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon, which was an interesting soundtrack, I have to say. Mika Levy back again in the Zone of Interest. Daniel Pemberton for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And Joe Hisaishi for The Boy and the Heron, which, again, I've not seen. No idea on that one. Whatever soundtrack I really like, it's never that one that wins the award. I'd probably give it for Oppenheimer, but I've not heard some of those. Best Picture in the Non-English Language, Anatomy of a Fall, Fallen Leaves, yay! Io Capitano from Italy, Past Lives from the United States, Society of the Snow from Spain, and The Zone of Interest from the United Kingdom, which again is interesting, although it's set in a German concentration camp, isn't it? So it's probably mostly in German. I mean, I'd love Fallen Leaves to win that, but it won't. I think given all the other attention elsewhere, Anatomy of a Fall should probably have that one as a shoo-in, but we'll see. Best Original Song. We've got 3 songs from Barbie. What Was I Made For? Dance the Night Away, and I'm Just Ken.
That's my vote. I'm Just Ken deserves the win.
I always want that to be nominated for the Oscar, just so that they get to perform it on stage. It's great.
That'd be amazing.
Elsewhere, we've got She Came to Me from a film called Addicted to Romance by Bruce Springsteen and Patti Schreiber. The Super Mario Brothers movie song Peaches, Jack Black et al. And Rustin, which by Lenny Kravitz, the closing titles for Road to Freedom, which I actually predicted was going to be an Oscar nom a couple of weeks ago, and here it is at the Golden Globes. The sad thing for me is there is not a single song from Wonka on that list, which I think is a crime.
Yeah, which I would have assumed, like you said, you thought, it was too late to make the awards.
Yeah.
I would have assumed the same thing. And it absolutely should have a song in this list.
Yeah. I just, given there's 3 songs from Barbie in here, I would have dropped one of those. Out of that list, the earworm for me is probably Barbie and Dance the Night Away, I have to say. But we'll see. And final 2 categories, Best Motion Picture Animated, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Suzumi, which will please Andy and Scott in particular, and Wish. Now, you'd have to think if there was a god, then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse should win this as a shoo-in. But
now, you see, I loved the first one. I would not be fussed if everyone forgot about this one.
Which one?
Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, really? I'm surprised that didn't win last time.
I was really disappointed.
Oh, were you?
In it compared to the first one.
Okay.
So I've seen all of them except Suzume, which does look really good. So I'm definitely going to have to hunt that one out.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be for the nostalgia and just the way it made me feel. It's Super Mario Brothers for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, we'll see. We're not animation experts.
So much joy.
Yeah. And final one is a Golden Globe special, which is cinematic and box office achievement. And the nominees for that are Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour as the last one.
Now, I mean, genuinely, in this one, I think this should be a Barbie win.
I think this should be a Barbie win. And I can see it winning.
Yeah.
The big news story of the year was Barbenheimer, wasn't it? And Barbie came out way on top of that one. I mean, I guess Oppenheimer stands a chance as saying that no one would have expected a 3-hour film, mostly in black and white with men talking in meeting rooms, to bring in the box office it has. So it's a surprising one, isn't it? But for me, this is Barbie nailed on, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I swear to God, if they say Taylor Swift, I'm I'm going to throw my toys out the pram. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Golden Globes nominations and our initial views on that. We will feature the Golden Globes on the podcast probably after the event now, just to give our views on who won and our feelings about that. That's actually announced on January the 7th. Golden Globes now under new management, of course, so not as controversial, hopefully, as in previous years, but we'll see how those chips fall. Just finally, just to mention any other business, new films out this week, in fact, coming out today when this podcast is released. Godzilla -1, which you've seen, Emma. I haven't seen it. It's Japanese language. It looks a classic Godzilla action movie. Trailer actually looked very good.
It is.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I absolutely loved it.
Good. Okay, so that's a recommendation from you. We'll review that one next week. And there's a sci-fi movie which Andy Godfrey wanted to recommend as well, called The Shift, which is coming out. And this is an unusual slice of sci-fi which asks the question, would you still hold dear to all that you believe in if it was all taken away from you? What would you do if you suddenly woke up in a parallel universe where nothing is quite right? So we're not in AI territory here. We're in multiverse territory again for this sci-fi movie. But Andy Godfrey recommends you check that one out as well. And again, we'll review that properly next time. My thanks to Emma Sewell from Emma at the Movies. I've been Bob Mann from One Man's Movies. And this has been Flickering Dreams for this week. Just one more podcast before Christmas, I think. Okay, thank you very much. Cheers. Bye. Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.